All right. Grab a pretty circle. Okay. Don't really have a script for this one, just getting annoyed again at typing the same things over to everyone who's being awesome and posting a form check video on the page. So, the thing that I'm becoming super keenly aware of now is your hips turning and how they turn and when they don't turn. So we want to be Paige and Drew with our hips throwing away from the camera. Their front leg is locked. Their knee is locked. We never do this as beginners. I think it probably requires a degree of athleticism that we don't have. It also requires way more commitment to the brace than we understand that we need. So their front leg is locked. As soon as they get into their brace, you can see their crotch, the front of their hips. You can see something like that. And then as soon as they come through the hit and the disc is gone, you see their butt. Their hips have totally switched sides. You have this one on this side, that one on that side. I can't do right and left. And then they switch. That is the moneymaker. What we get as beginners, literally every single video that anyone's posted on the page of someone throwing less than 400 feet, you see this turn back, and then they stay there, and then the hip opens before the plant foot comes down and the plant toes come down forward. That is not cool. Plant toes need to stay closed because you need to get to your brace with your crotch still facing backwards, right? So if I'm throwing away from the camera again, as beginners, we get our belt buckle facing backwards. Belt buckle is better than the other thing. Belt buckle facing backwards, and then we open off of that back foot. You want your belt buckle still facing not 180 backwards ever, no more than 45, but you want it still facing backwards when that plant foot gets down, because then that foot being on the ground should be the only thing that stops your front hip. So you're actually throwing from your front leg. You're throwing off of the brace. That is staying there. My hips are staying behind that. Brace is here. Hips are here, a foot and a half behind. They stay there from reach back to pocket to release. The hips stay behind the brace. So if you're ending up here at any point with that bent knee or with your hips drifting forward before the disc is like completely gone, you're not bracing yet. Like, we all feel like we're bracing, but look at video. Ben's Big Drive has a video. I have a link to it. It is awesome, where he goes through how to work through your form. He has a couple step process that's actually really useful. I tried it. I put myself and a video of Drew right next to it and cue it up to where the disc leaves the hand and look at the things you're doing different. Like, I guarantee Drew is keeping his hips behind his brace, and I guarantee if you're not throwing 400, 450, you are not. Your hips are drifting forward over your brace way too soon. So what that looks like, I call it your hips rolling open instead of your hips, I don't know, bracing, spiraling, switching on the spot really fast open like Paige and Drew do. But it looks, let's see if I can do it. It looks, I could just throw and then you would see it. It looks like this, where the hips are they're just rolling that way, right? So there's forward advancement of the hips the whole time. It usually comes with a backwards lean and then a forwards lean, right? Because we're trying to do too much of the throw from our shoulders, not keeping this here. The body should stay pretty much upright. Drew throws with a lot of tilt like that because he's a magician and he can do it, but he throws everything on hyzer. Look at the overthrow video of him throwing in slow-mo. His anhyzers are released like here, and he just counts on the disc to flip up and go right. So he doesn't ever even throw flat in that video. I think it's always anhyzer. So he has this weird shoulder dip, but that's advanced for us beginning mortals. Keep everything up on the level of the shoulders. Yeah, that's all dead flat the whole time, and this shoulder stays on the same plane. Once you start getting into that stuff, you've got to be using an understable disc or doing weird things with your wrist to make the disc flat. Keep it simple and stupid and up here and level. When you can do what you want with that out to 300 feet, then start dripping down into this more powerful zone. It's harder to control. Where were we? Hips rolling. Yeah, so it looks wrong. It looks like that, where the hips just open on their own and then keep drifting forward over the brace. What you want is really more of a where the hips go when they get into that kind of position where the knee is pointed, back knee is pointed towards the front knee. But the other magical thing that I wanted to make the video about that I haven't heard anyone anywhere explain is how the stretch shortening cycle applies to your hips. Question mark, kind of. I'm not sure it actually does. But the stretch shortening reflex or the stretch shortening cycle is a thing. Look it up. That's why if you're trying to do a high jump and touch something as high as you can, if you load, stop, and then jump from here, you can get kind of high. But if you load dynamically into your tendons and your muscles and bounce off of the bottom of your stroke, you can get a lot higher, right? Test it out, it works. Back in my high school days, I could get about 4 extra inches from bouncing as opposed to not to. So it's a real thing. That's what slingshot disc golf is getting into. Boom. That crack in the back is the stretch shortening cycle. He's not just coming to full reach back, waiting, letting all the force dissipate, and then pulling it forward. He's loose, the body is pulling, the disc bounces off of the back, and you get extra power and extra acceleration, extra snap because of that. You can also do that concept in your hips. Mind blown, doesn't make any sense. What the heck do I mean? So instead of just coming to full reach back, staying there, letting everything dissipate, and then throwing, I want to get to reach back, pop, and come back. I want my hips to do the same thing. I don't want to get to reach back, stop, and then open. I want to get to my maximum reach back position in terms of my hips dynamically. So the way Drew does this, watch the overthrow video, stare at his hips the whole time. He cross steps, his hips are here, relatively square. They're like maybe 20 degrees-ish. He's stepping into his plant. As his plant goes down, he turns this way. Not so much in his shoulders, but his hips. He closes into this hip crease and points his right butt cheek forward more. That's while he's on his X step. So he's not turning back and then turning forward. He's staying sideways and then turning backwards right at the beginning. Loopghost has a video that covers this too, but it's one line in a like 3-minute video and no one catches it. It's the part where he points his booty at you and he says, what does he say? He says, I forget it. It's like cheek forward or something, but he's doing a little turn this way and then step forward and then turn that way. It's that preloading of the rotation is what makes the whole thing work. If I want my hips to magically spin clockwise once my foot's on the ground, I can't do that if they don't have any movement in them yet. But if I just put this foot down, the only way I can spin is if this foot is pushing that way and this foot is pushing that way, which is what I thought was happening, which I explained in my bracing video. I don't think that's what happens anymore. So I'm not swiveling by pushing both of these off. I'm swiveling because my hips are already spinning on the way in, and then I'm stopping this hip with this leg. So it looks, to exaggerate the crap out of it, it looks like this. And so yeah, that gets that little like back leg scoop thing that happens. The way Dan Beto does it is totally fake and artificial, and I don't think it makes any sense. It does make sense that this motion is counteracted by that motion, right? If I want to hit 2 people behind me at once, I could do that, right? If I wanted to hit this guy harder than that guy, I could use this to power this. It's a Superman punch, but other side, right? If that makes any sense. If any of you are experienced MMA fighters out there. So what's my point? My point is the hips need to be preloaded and rotating this way, rotating clockwise, when they're stopped by the plant already. And it accelerates clockwise because you're stopping the front hip. So don't film yourself, look, make sure your hips aren't rolling open. Make sure you're winding up the hips, coiling into that back leg, during your weight shift, and then the hips are pivoting on the spot. If that doesn't make sense, ask questions. We'll do another video. We'll respond to comments. Get out to the field, give it a try.